I am terrible at video games. Like just embarrassingly awful. And the weird thing is if you look at me, if you know anything about me, like that guy spends a lot of time indoors playing pretend online. No. I'm too cheap to the only thing I've ever played online was Fortnite for under 10 times, something like that, because I am too cheap to buy the online thing. Plus, it's like a mixture of cheap and I just know. It's like, I don't know. It's like also if I was going to go out and buy a Magnum condom. It's like, what are you going to do with this? Who are you don't need all these capabilities. I don't you're doing fine with a regular Trojan. Okay? I'm doing fine. No one needs to see how I play video games. I'm just the only game I've ever finished is Red Dead Redemption 2, and I routinely murdered my horse because I was just like run it off of a cliff, and not on purpose. Not like Grand Theft Auto where you go snipe people when you get bored. It's no, I was just riding it and was stoned and would legitimately drive a horse off of a cliff multiple times. Poor little edibles. Um, I'm just not good at it. I'm passable somewhat. I like arcades. Arcades are the tits. There was a place, arcades are the tits. That's a shirt. There was a place in Framingham, Massachusetts called Fun. Is it Fun in Games or Fun and Games? I don't think it was in games. I think it's and games. Fun and Games. It was the best. And like when you walked in, they took it out, so like it's still there, but it's like the boring version because when I was a kid, you'd walk in and there was like you were walking into a spaceship, and like there was like lights, and you were in like the like you know when the thing they dock, you know when the ships dock, and you're walking in between to get onto the station. That's what it was like. It was badass, and there was laser tag. And I didn't play. I since I was bad, I didn't play ticket games. Plus, I just knew like when I need a new eraser. It I went like my favorite games. I like the Simpsons game where like you could play Bart and hit people with a skateboard. I thought that was cool. I like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle game. I like the one, I think it's like a Japanese game where like you step on a pedal and you shoot, and like when you get off the pedal you duck. I like that game a lot. I like all the shooting games. There was a badass place in LA I went to, and like it was like bad East Hollywood. And it was a place that like they rented out arcade games, but they just opened up their warehouse and had them plugged in. Like we went and got a Groupon for it and literally never finished the token. Like for like $15, they gave us 8,000 tokens. Like not like obviously 8,000 is a little bit much, but I literally still had when I changed cars I think twice, and I still had leftover tokens just in case I ever went back. And I never did because there were drug deals happening and like homeless people hanging out. Because for some reason the arcade was open till like 2 in the morning, and it wasn't even a fun one where you could like get booze. It wasn't like a Dave and Buster's. It was like, this is dangerous. My mom would not allow me to come here, and I'm in my early to mid to late 20s. It was not good. I also went back to the Natick Mall recently, which is the mall I grew up in, and times they are changing. There used to be a arcade, like a no-name arcade in the mall, but now there's a Dave and Buster's in the mall. Oh, okay. Speaking of Dave and Buster's, this is how much of a nerd I am. Senior skip day. I don't know if other countries have it or if they outlawed it these days. There was a day in senior year of high school where like all the seniors are supposed to skip. I'm sure some people didn't. I did. I know, rebel. But listen, all those other kids, they were out there drinking, fucking, doing cocaine. I don't know what kids did. You know what my friends and I did? We met at the school. We drove to Providence, and we went to Dave and Buster's. Yep. Yep. That's my 18-year-old rebellion. You think I'm going to school today, Mom? Ha! I'm going to Dave and Buster's and getting some food court food. I don't know. I don't remember what we ate. But that I love video games. I'm just terrible at them. And the reason I tell you all of that is because I have a great guest today. His name is Lucas Hirl. He's a comedian from Los Angeles. Well, he's actually from Iowa, but he lives in Los Angeles. He's a regular at the Comedy Store. He's one of the co-hosts on What's the Odds with Steve Renazizi and Brenton Biddlecombe. And he's very funny. Like, as funny as he is, he's even a nicer person. I did a few shows with him. I did a weekend with him and Steve Simeone headlining, and Lucas and I really connected. He's actually the reason I have this laptop here right now, because he was like, I know this Jew likes deals, and B&H Video was having a deal on laptops, and I needed a new one. And we hung out, we talked. He came out with me one night when a girl... God, I don't know what... Like, I've done episodes. If you want to go listen, this is just another quick update. And Lee and his former luck with women, because I'm dating somebody now, so you missed out, ladies. No. There was a girl, I forget how... Like, some comics do stand up to get laid, and I would have loved to have that happen, but it didn't. But this one night in Phoenix... This girl, I forget how it came up, but and I felt really bad because she was with the Phoenix or wherever that club is. I think is it Scottsdale? It's the House of Comedy where is it? It's a great club. It's a lot of fun. And now I want to know where it is. House of Comedy, Arizona. Give me 2 seconds because it's a fun club and you should go out and support live comedy. It's in... Well, see, it says Phoenix, but it's not. It doesn't matter. It's in around Phoenix. It's in the nice area of Phoenix. It's in an outdoor mall. It's badass. But anyways, this girl was very pretty, and well, yeah, she wasn't not pretty, but she wasn't who am I? She was better looking than me, and she was with the Phoenix version of me, and because he was like, oh, I'm just her friend, because she started talking. She's like, we should go out and get a drink after this. And I was much fatter and don't have that ever happen. And this guy, her friend, we were talking, and she was like, oh, yeah, he's just my really good friend. And I just wanted to give him a hug and hold him all night and be like, it's okay. It's okay. You don't have to buy her food and drinks and take her to a comedy show. Just so maybe she kisses you on the cheek tonight, because she's not going to. But Lucas was a good wingman that night, and it was even better because I wasn't gonna go. It was kind of weird, and there was a place called the Happy Mushroom. It was a mushroom themed pizza place, and I went to go get food after because I was fat and I was eating what I wanted, and I ordered takeout, and I didn't see them there, so fuck it, I'm just going to get food. And I ordered the food, and then they were outside, and I saw them, and I tried to hide. But then she saw me, and she's like, come out. So I got my food, and I took it outside, and she was hammered. And she was like, we should go to Taco Bell. And I was like, well, I mean, in my head, I was like, anything for a blowjob. But it's she actually ended up puking. She went to the bathroom and puked. And at that point, I was like, you know what, maybe Taco Bell and sex with me is not something you want to add to your night tonight. So Lucas and I ended up walking back to the condo together. We stayed in the condo the whole weekend, went over comedy stuff, went over Lucas edits his stuff. Lucas is a great guy. I tell you that embarrassing story to tell you that Lucas is a great guy. And I had Lucas on this week because I knew that when he moved to LA, when I moved to LA, I worked in reality television. When Lucas moved to LA, he worked in video games. So I wanted to find out about that. I thought it would be fun to find out, to hear from someone who he worked on Skyrim, something New Vegas, and I'm blanking on it. I apologize, but I know the big one was Skyrim, sorry, not room. Everyone makes fun of me when I say room, I say rum, apparently. He worked on a ton of great games, and Fallout New Vegas. There we go. He worked on tons of games. He worked on Marvel games, and I thought it would be very interesting for you to hear him talk. So go follow Lucas Hirl, Lucashirl, and listen to him on the What's the Odds podcast with Steve Renazizi and Brenton Biddlecombe. And I just want to very quickly give you the sponsors for this week. This podcast is, as always, brought to you by Sheath Underwear. Sheath Underwear celebrated the 100 pounds that I lost by sending me their underwear, and I love it. They're soft. I look like a soft, sexy, young Jewish Santa Claus because I have the nice red ones. I love them. They have 2-pouch compartment, and you don't want to be flopping around over the summer. The balls are stinky. They're sweaty. They're flopping around, and that's not good. And with Sheath Underwear, you have a nice, soft, supportive 2-pouch compartment. Put your balls in one, your boop boop in the other. I don't know why I called it boop boop, but I did. They put it in the other. It's a great, comfortable underwear, and I love it. And I love it even more knowing the backstory. And the backstory is a U.S. Army soldier, Robert Patton, created this and had the idea for it on his second tour in Iraq. And just here, do me a favor. Go to sheathunderwear.com. That's SHEATH. Sheath. It's a sheath for your boop boop. And go to sheathunderwear.com. Use promo code Syatt, SYATT. Okay? Check out everything they have. It's a veteran-owned company. They support me, and they're going to support your balls. So do me a favor. Go to sheathunderwear.com. Use promo code Syatt to get 20% off of your first order. And don't forget, if you're like, well, Lee, how do I know I'm going to like this as much as you like it? Well, you are, but just in case you were a little bit nervous, every order comes with Sheath Underwear's 100% money-back guarantee. That's right, 100%, not 85, not 83, not 34, 100% money-back guarantee. Go to sheathunderwear.com, promo code Syatt. Get Sheath Underwear and let them support your balls. And speaking of balls, I love this company. It's Manscaped. Okay, listen. Attention. Listeners and viewers across the galaxy. All the way from Australia to Houston. Do we have a pube problem? Dun, dun, dun. That's supposed to be space music. My friends at Manscaped have you cleared for takeoff with their 4th generation and brand new Lawnmower 4.0. Kick your pubes to the next planet with the Performance Package 4.0. Get all of their great products in a nice package just for you. The orbit in your pants will feel like you're in zero gravity when you use the best tools for the job from the leaders in male grooming. Join the 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and get your rocket ready for takeoff by going to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping with code Syatt, SYATT. I like everything in their product. The Lawnmower 4.0 has a great light. It has 4,000K LED. Listen, I'm literally in a hurricane or whatever it's called right now. I have it by my bedside just in case I need to see at night. That's how bright the flashlight is. If it can get me safely through a house with no power, it can get you around your pubes. So do me a favor. Go to manscaped.com. Go there and use code Syatt to get 20% off plus free shipping. That's right, 20% off plus free shipping using code Syatt at manscaped.com. For a clean Trinity and beyond, your space balls will thank you with Manscaped. And thank you, Manscaped, for supporting the podcast. So, this is a very fun conversation with Lucas. If you like video games, if you like comedy, if you like nice people from Iowa, you're going to love Lucas Hirl. Do me a favor and please welcome Lucas Hirl to the What Was I Thinking podcast. You and I have done a lot of shows together, a lot with Steve Simeone, and I think on one of the trips we were just talking and you told me that you started your career working in video games.
Yeah, for 9 years.
9 years.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I finally started talking about it on stage. Like, it's my new opener, too.
Oh, yeah?
And I'm very excited about it. It's just like in the last month, Lee, because now I go up on stage and I'm like, people don't think I have credits in this town, but I worked on MMORPGs for 9 years, and if you know what that means, you're probably alone tonight. And then I just go down that whole.
That's so funny. Why were you avoiding it?
I don't know. I don't think I just knew how to make it funny. And I always thought when people, occasionally people will ask you, hey, what do you want to be brought up as? And I'd say, you can say I directed on Skyrim or, produced like Fallout or Halo, and audiences just don't care.
Well, I mean, I think some will. Okay, that's really good. I didn't even know your credits. I'm excited because like those are all games I've heard of. So, but before we get to that, is that what you moved out to LA for? Is video
No,
games?
no, I moved out here for comedy, and I
Okay.
graduated from University of Iowa 2 years before, and I stayed behind in Iowa for 2 years and bartended to save up for law school. And I'm like, I don't want to go to law school. I want to be a
For
comedian.
law school, okay.
Yeah, that's probably what I would have done if I'd stayed.
That's
And
funny. I would never have guessed that. I guess I could see you with a suit on being a lawyer.
I like
That's
wearing a
funny.
suit. I don't like arguing though.
No, I would. The reading. My mom's a lawyer, so she always pushed me. She didn't push me, but she always says, "Oh, you could have been a lawyer." The reading and the writing would have driven me nuts.
Same,
It would have driven me bananas. Okay, so
same.
you move out to LA.
Yeah.
How did you get into video games?
So I had a college degree, and I just thought, well, it'll be easy for me to find some sort of job, some entry level job in entertainment while I try to be a comedian. And it was like 2009. The economy was terrible. I couldn't get a job anywhere. I couldn't, like, I was applying to any job I could find. The Comedy Store as a door guy was the first job I got.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And so while I was working there, you remember the UTA list?
I know. Isn't UT an agency? That's all I know
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. They have this underground list of like jobs in the industry or internships.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, you had to kind of know somebody to get your hands on it. And I got my hands on it, and I just applied for every internship that was in there. So my first internship was at this record company called Bulletproof, and all my
Okay.
jobs, I just the most menial tasks like making coffee and
Oh
photo
yeah.
photo scanning this producer's like family photos. Just nothing
Oh
that really
yeah.
taught me anything about
I'm
the industry.
I might have you beat my first job, and I love my first job in LA was America's Funniest Home Videos, and they were very nice to me. I have no complaints about them at all. But I remember I had graduated college. I had a degree. I was paying student loans, and one day my job was to take a butter knife and Goo Gone and take labels off of a camera box. And I just remember sitting there with a Goo Gone and a butter knife, like I'm paying student loans right now to do something that like just didn't need to be done. It's just like they're just trying. That's funny. Were they paid internships or were they
No,
unpaid?
no, God,
Yeah,
no.
it blows my mind. Like unpaid internships are out the window now. Like they feel like it's like you're taking advantage of people, and you kind of are. But it's like it's part of. It's your way in. I mean, we're not. Like, I'm not telling anybody to like whip anybody, but you need some menial stuff done. We're not paying for it. It's awesome.
Yeah. When I first moved out here too, I lived in a house. It was a 7 bedroom house with 5 other guys, and they were all Chicago film guys. And they started, two of them made a pilot where we hired an intern for our house. And this was a year before I came, so I only saw the pilot. They made this before I moved in, but it was a very well done pilot. And like Andrew Santino was in it.
Oh, he lived with it. He lived in that house.
No, he came in. He was a character on the show where
Got
we
it.
were
Okay,
finding an intern. And this was 13 years ago.
that's so funny.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, and you're right. They really cracked down on it, I think, because when I started, when I was an intern, I was out of college, and I kind of had to not. I kind of lied, but kind of didn't. As far as
Like
like,
every
yeah,
resume. Yeah. I can
yeah,
speak Spanish. Yeah, whatever you need.
but they, but they knew it was illegal. They can't hire somebody and make them work for free. But I was also out of college.
Right. I think most of the internships, like my internship with America's Funniest, was in between the summer between my junior and senior year. So it was And I get it. I actually spoke to someone. I went to Emerson and I spoke to someone about getting an intern for this, and they said, "Oh, are you going to pay for it?" And I said, "I can't right now." And they said, "Well, just so you know, you'll probably get less applications because apparently." And I guess I kind of understand. It was like they said only they look down on it because only people who can afford to not get paid take those jobs, so they think it's unfair. And I kind of see that point. I remember right around the time I got to LA, there was a whole big thing about SNL interns, like they were suing NBC or something because like they didn't allow them bathroom breaks or they were working unpaid. And I don't know. I see I see value in it. I mean, like, I know you were doing shit that like had no bearing on like actual work, but like it proves that you can work and it gets you into the industry. And I don't know. I don't look down on them as much as some people do.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, there is something to be said about doing those menial tasks that other people who are just starting might think they're too good for, and they're really not.
Right. I think that's it. And then you're not supposed to do it for years, a
Yeah.
few months, 6 months. And it's I think it's important. So you started at a record agency. When did
Yeah.
you make the switch to video games?
I was there for about 3 months and I just kept applying for these jobs on the UTA list. And I got one call back from this video game company. And, kind of like the record company, like, dude, the record producer, his biggest credit was he was a rich dude, came from money.
That was his credit?
Yeah.
I'm rich.
Yeah. And just had like the music he made, he produced like Sugar Ray and a couple other bands, but it wasn't really, he wasn't that prolific, wasn't that hardworking. And I was there for about 3 months, and it was one of those internships where I was just able to kind of quit by not showing up anymore.
Oh yeah, I love those. Yeah.
Once I got the video game job and I went in and I interviewed, and the home office was right down the street from the Comedy Store. It was right next to Carney's, like
Okay,
that office
right,
building.
right.
So, and I went in and I interviewed, and I saw like they had the Halo. They had like a Halo statue in the lobby. I'm like, oh, this place is legit. And I wore a suit. I overdressed.
Oh yeah. That's funny. Did they laugh at you, or did you just feel like
No, they laughed at me because it's
that's
one of
so
those like
funny? Yeah.
t-shirt,
Now
like you'd imagine a video game company would be.
Oh yeah, that happened to me. Every job I had in TV, like I remember one day this kid came in a suit and we didn't laugh in his face, but afterwards, like the other guys laughed at him, and I honestly, I'm not sure, but it turned out fine. But right when I met Joey, I had an interview at UFC headquarters to be an assistant editor there, and I didn't wear a full suit, but I wore the pants and the shirt. And, like, of course, the people interviewing me didn't even have a polo shirt on. And I feel like that was part of the reason I didn't get the job. I was like, it's a little, and who knows? I also probably wasn't qualified. But it's funny how, I don't know, on the East Coast, or like being a lawyer, you'd think, oh, I got to wear a suit. I got to impress them. And it's stoners walking around in, like it could be a multimillionaire and he has flip-flops on.
Yeah. But it's better to be overdressed than underdressed.
Oh yeah, you wouldn't want to show up to an interview like that. That's funny. So and was this for an internship or for a job?
It's for an internship. It was and it was like I didn't know if I got the position right when I finished interviewing, but I did the old thank you note handwritten.
Oh yeah,
and I think that's what got me in.
Because
then I got a call a week later, and I kind of got to make my own schedule. Because I like any LA job, office opens at 11 a.m. and they go until 7 or 8 p.m. sometimes later. Like they work their asses off in that office. And I just realized because I would, especially the first month, I was there till like 9, even 10 o'clock most nights. And I just realized that I'll have to just go when I want to go. I'm not going to ask permission to leave anymore. It's just kind of one of those offices where I was given a lot of independence and I was given real responsibilities. Like day one, my boss, Tim, who I'm still really close with, he's my mentor. He taught me everything I know in production, really, especially editing. And he didn't have time for bullshit. And whenever I'd have a question, a tech question, he'd be like, Google it. Just Google it. Like he was too busy to be bothered. And he he was, he's still a voiceover producer. He works for Netflix now.
Oh, cool.
But dude, and he's not much older than me. God, dude, that guy's worked on so many video games.
That's awesome.
He's written them. He's done everything in it.
It's so funny. We have very similar stories. I had a couple people who I considered mentors in the editing world, and to me, one of the best things that happened in my career was working nights, because when you work nights on TV shows, other than one show I worked on, every other show I worked nights, you're literally like the only person there, and people aren't going to be too happy to get a 3 a.m. phone call like, how do I fix this? So you have to learn to figure it out. And yeah. I think it's an important skill. So that's what, like, what were you doing as an intern?
It was like a lot of transferring like hard drive files, dealing with servers, things that were like way over my head. Cause I come from Iowa and I didn't really know, I barely knew what a hard drive was. So I was just thrown into the fire. And after about a month, I got to go to the recording studio for the first time, because like we have our home office, which is on Sunset, but really most of the work I did was in Burbank. There's a studio called Margarita Mix on Romaine and Fountain.
Okay.
And that's where we'd bring our big celebrity clients. Because really what our company did, we were called Blind Light. And whenever a game publisher wanted to use a celebrity or a SAG or AFTRA actor for their video game, they'd go through us. We do the casting, we do the production, we do the editing.
Oh, okay. So you were more on the like actual, like, I don't know, are you filming it at all? And
near the end we were, and that's how I learned to use cameras, because what we do is I would set a camera in the recording studio or in the recording booth with the actor. Mm-hmm. And instead of old mocap, where they'd wear the beaded suit, really at the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox 360, I was able to use a DSLR camera, and I'd send that footage to the animators, and they'd help use the facial structure to help animate the game.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah. That's really awesome.
So that taught me camera work too.
So yeah, taught you, like, it's a frustrating thing for anyone out there who's trying to get into any sort of production work. For me, or I worked in post, like the job postings are like, we want you to do this, like you can't. There's not really, like, you can't just be an editor really at the beginning. Once you get enough jobs, you can be, but at the beginning they want you to motion, shooting, editing, and that's great that you were able to learn it. And did you play video games at all, or this was just mainly?
I did.
Okay.
I did before, and then once I started working on them, I quit. Because I remember, in the summer of 2011, it was the most hellacious summer of my life, Lee. Like I was bar backing at the Comedy Store, so I was working there, probably 25, 30 hours a week, late nights, and then I'd wake up and go intern for 4 days a week. But in the summer of 2011 is when I finally got we were working on a game called Skyrim. So by 2010, I started my internship January 2010. By the summer of 2010, we were working on Fallout New Vegas. And that's when they hired me. That's when they're like, okay, we'll pay you to start coordinating sessions, where my job was to go to the recording studio. And it was me and the voice director and the engineer, and then the actor who was in the booth, and then usually a representative from the publisher. So usually we worked with Bethesda, a lot of Microsoft, and they'd have 1 to 3 people there. And my job was to kind of coordinate with the publisher and the director. The director's job was to, get the best performance out of the actor. And I also took notes. I dealt with the paperwork that the unions required, and dealt with a lot of kid actors and their parents, making sure that we abided by the union rules with them. It's like, to this day, kid actors just give me the creeps, because they're so professional. Like, they are more professional than adults.
Well, they're supporting their entire family, probably.
Yeah.
That's great. Do you remember, what did it feel like when they offered you the job from intern to like real job? Do you remember what that was like?
Dude, it was a burden because I was a door guy at the store, and like the job, the video game job, it was low wage, especially initially, a lot of
Right.
responsibilities
Right.
because it's like the only production job that still isn't unionized.
Mm-hmm.
Video games, like we're still not unionized. And I think it's the only part because, like we're the hybrid between Hollywood and video games. Like, yeah, I worked on video games, but we also worked on the Los Angeles side of it. That whenever these publishers would come out here from Bethesda, Maryland or Seattle, Washington, it's so cool because with my Comedy Store hookup, I'd always take them to a show and they thought like I just lived the life and I really did. But
Right.
they weren't used to the LA Hollywood side.
Right. That's
You know,
that. So that's funny. Like did you ever have at any point any benefits? Like, did they ever give you health insurance or anything? And maybe they did. I never worked one TV job where I got the only benefit I got was a free Diet Coke.
yeah, no, that's the same. We got like the food was good. We got to order in every day, but no fucking health insurance.
That's so funny.
I still don't have health insurance, Lee. So
well, no, look at you. You're a beautiful man.
Thanks,
you don't
man.
need all you need is a good night's rest. But okay, so yeah, you were underpaid. It's so funny. They really. It's so many people's dream job, like the entertainment, like the people were following. It's like the same. It's similar to being a comic. Like you're following your dream, and like just to get paid at all for it is like amazing to some people. But then, like it sounds like you were maybe in a cool position because you had like a job with a company. Like I don't know if we're skipping ahead a little bit, but like in the TV world, it always used to blow people's minds because every few months you'd be looking for a new job because a gig ended. Was that similar in video games or did you? Okay.
Yeah, each game that I worked on, I had to sign a different NDA contract for.
Right.
And
okay.
like the first like official game that I worked on was Fallout New Vegas, and it paid like at the time, dude, it was like 100, maybe I think it's $125 a day.
Right. And you're working like what, 10, 12-hour days?
Yes.
Jesus.
And carrying just big ass binders. Like I learned, especially in LA, you see like a young kid carrying a bunch of folders and shit, you be nice to him because he'll be running this town someday.
Oh yeah, that happens a lot. People definitely move up. And how long does a game? And I know I'm sure it varies, but how long will a game like that take? For like the whole process, how long would you be on a game for?
Well, like, have you ever heard of Elder Scrolls Skyrim?
Yeah,
I think for that one we had like 60,000 lines of dialogue.
Wow.
So we had 3 recording studios going, and that took a full summer. That was 3 months. That's when I quit playing video games too. That was the summer of 2011, and Game of Thrones had just come out.
Okay.
And all my roommates were watching Game of Thrones. Like, you got to watch Game of Thrones. And dude, I was so just knee deep in work. And every day I was going to the recording studio and we were recording these lines dealing with dragons. And it's like the exact same plot of Game of Thrones is the game of Skyrim. And so I was like, dude, I don't want to watch this fucking show that's just like my day job.
Right.
And so to this day, I haven't seen Game of Thrones. Don't care to get into it.
It's pretty. When I was visiting my dad, I had never seen it, and I made it through the first 2 seasons. But it's good, but it's like you really have to pay attention. So like I haven't watched any in like 5 months. But wow, so it's amazing. I'm surprised it's so quick. I would have thought. Now, is this only is that 3 months? Are you really only working with like recording the actor's audio?
Yeah. So. And again, each game is completely different because it did take longer than 3 months. Like there was pickup lines and all that kind of stuff. We of course have to re-record. But dude, like that was the summer of 2011. That game got released November 11th, 2011. So we are one of the last kind of processes or we are one of the last steps in the whole process of making the game is getting the
Interesting.
voice, is getting the actual voiceover.
So
Usually, yeah,
do they have like temporary voiceovers so they can
yeah,
see how the game's working? Like they'll just have a
yeah.
random dude in the office being like a stop it. Like they'll just put some temporary stuff in there.
Dude, I've gotten to be that guy.
That's so
But
funny.
yeah, because they have to get games ready for E3, even if they're not ready. So they'll have, like, as an intern, I got to do what's called scratch dialogue.
Yeah, that's so
And
cool.
yeah.
Do you have any of those files somewhere? Do you have like
Oh
you
God.
being someone in a game?
I hope there's somewhere out there. I know I did an E3. I forget what game it was. It might have been New Vegas, because both those games came out in the fall. E3 was in the summer, so we had to
Hmm.
have something to show them. But of course, we didn't have the voices recorded.
That's so funny. Did you ever have? Because I remember I worked on a TV show. I don't want to. People know the shows I've worked on, but I don't want to say which one because it was a big mistake. There was a failure with our servers, so we were filming 2 seasons of a show at once. So it was 40 seasons, no 40 episodes of. They recorded like 20 hours a day, even more than that. 10, 15 people at a time, audio, video, and everything got corrupted. And we lost, and thankfully, it was on, I don't know what the kind of disc it was. I've seen it a bunch of times. There's like a special, I think it's Sony cameras, has like a hard disc that like you just have all these, we had it backed up, but it took like 2 weeks of 24 hours a day to re-ingest it. But like, did you ever have any like huge technical issues? Did like
Oh yeah.
things corrupt, things break? Yeah. Any fun stories of just losing your mind?
Uh, I do remember the first time I ever kind of yelled or kind of got like attitude with an actor
Right.
was Zach Levi.
I don't.
He
I'm
played he played Spock in the Star Trek movies.
got it. Got it. Okay.
Really nice guy. And I was in the studio with him, and I was filming him as he was doing his voices to get his face animations. And I couldn't get my camera to mount on my tripod, and it was just a frustrating. I think the tripod had kind of broken,
Right.
and he was just kind of giving me a look like, you're gonna hurry up. You're gonna, yes, like, you doing okay? I said, I'm fine, and that
That's
like kind of shut him up. And like after that, I was the only person in the room that he called by their name. He's like, after, how you doing, Luke? How you?
yeah, yeah.
And
That's
so me
funny.
and him were good after that. But I just learned, like, oh, okay, if you act like you're losing it, you're losing your mind at an opportune time. It can work in your benefit.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, it almost it's weird. It's like dealing with like a hot girl. Like you need to like show them that you're in control, and then like they respect you more. That's funny. So you worked as a coordinator, and you mentioned producing and direct. Like how did you start moving up the ranks?
So the first game I was a production coordinator on, that was Fallout New Vegas. And that was the summer 2010. Summer 2011, I did the same job on Skyrim. And then my boss, after a couple months of working on Skyrim, he's like, "Do you want to try directing?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And there's a noticeable pay bump. It's like
Right,
$250 a day. But the other thing is, and this is it isn't union rules because we aren't union, but the actors were. So, if an actor records, be it 400 lines of dialogue in a 4-hour session, or if they're just doing one line of pickups because we have to get one more thing out of them, if they step foot in that booth, they get, at the time, it was like $840.
dang,
And that was the union rate. And so
right,
same as a director, if I were to direct for an hour or if I were to direct for 8 hours, I'd get paid $250 either way.
okay,
So I was asked, you want to try it? And I tried it, and it went terribly, dude. It was like worse. I was nervous. I was, and the client at the time, Bethesda, they came in and they sat next to us. They were in the studio and we were doing Fallout. by the time we did Skyrim, they trusted us enough that they were just on a phone patch. So they couldn't
Okay.
see me. But I was like, I just sounded nervous and I just was kind of looking for their approval.
How old were you?
I was 26.
Okay.
And after an hour, my boss, who was in the studio with me and usually wasn't, he took me outside. He goes, "This is going terribly." He's like,
No.
"Yeah." He's like, "You got to tell Aaron, who is the engineer, you got to tell Aaron to shut the fuck up." And he's just telling me like what he's like, "You're in charge of this ship. If you don't know what you're doing, no one else is gonna know what they're doing." So, I learned tricks of the trade. So
Right.
actors, they're a fragile bunch. Some of them, they don't like doing more than 3 takes. And if you usually we'll always do 2 takes just to give
Okay.
us something to choose from. And if we wanted a different performance, we would give them specific notes and they give us 1 or 2 more. If you get to the point where you can tell the actor's getting frustrated, I learned you just blame tech. You just say, "Hey, that's a great performance. We need 1 more for tech." Always blame the engineer.
That's
But
so funny.
but at the time, my boss is like, the engineer, he's talking too much. You're not in control. And I was put into a pretty hard position because as a coordinator, my job was to make sure too that every day we got our quota in for how many lines we should get done. And usually I aim for like 400 lines in a 4-hour session. And we do 2 4-hour sessions a day with 2 different actors. I was in charge of, this was just like a 2-hour session. I was in charge of like 300 lines, which is way over pace.
Right.
And so there really isn't enough time to get the performance that you want. So I think that Tim at the time put me in a position to fail, and it was good for me.
Yeah.
But dude, it went really bad.
Oh, and let me ask you this, because when with editing, like that's just where I come from. You start out as a PA usually, and then you like some people you go to like digitizer maybe, but then it's assistant editor, and then it's lead assistant editor, and then you can make the jump to either junior editor or regular editor. But there's like a path. To go from coordinator to director seems like a big jump. Is there a path usually, or what is it like in video games?
Usually the voice directors did start as coordinators.
Okay, so okay, so you weren't jumping a step or anything. You were just
Yeah.
wow. But I think they do that on. I think you're probably right about Tim. I think and I have Tim here to talk to you. No, it's I think they do that a lot. I think they probably do that on purpose just to see how you handle things. And he wouldn't have done it if he didn't think you could handle that. Like, so you get to the end of this first day. Did you get to direct again, or did they send you back to coordinating? Or
No, they sent me back to coordinating. They did get to direct again when they did DLC, downloadable content for Skyrim. So once
okay,
the game was out and then they were doing patches, that's when I got like the more consistent work, and I was able to like, because the first time was such a failure, I really learned. And I just, when I went back to coordinating, when you're coordinating, it really is a sweet job because you just have to take notes. You don't have to deal directly with the director. If I didn't want to talk all day, I really didn't have to.
right, okay,
I just had to listen. And so I always would get the director's lingo in my head. So to this day, I still have a lot of director lingo. I talk like a director. I'll say split the difference, just these terms that you get used to.
right.
So yeah, dude, it was really good to coordinate because it makes directing, now it's second nature. Now it's something that I know how to do. You just have to know what you want.
Right. That's pretty awesome. I mean, and I can kind now that I hear, because we haven't really talked about this before. I can see your directing skills in the comedy and the way you do comedy, because we did Phoenix together, and like the whole I've never seen anybody work as hard as you do. Like you taped it, and like the next day you'd go through and like really like dissect every set you did, and I could see you like going through like, okay, maybe I'll say it this way tonight. I'll do that. So that's pretty funny that you were able to take your directing and like translate it into your comedy.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's funny too. Like I guess the only games we worked on too. So we worked on like MMORPGs, but we also worked on the Marvel games.
Oh, I didn't know they had Marvel games.
Yeah, so like we worked on Thor and Captain America, and dude, like we either worked on these games that would take like one game, Guild Wars 2. Have you ever heard of it?
I don't think I've heard of that one.
Okay, it's a big MMORPG, dude. We've been working on that game for like 15 years because they release the game, but they release extensions and patches. So that game has employed
Oh,
us for fucking like 15 years, and I worked on it for all 9 years.
that's crazy.
Dude, it's like a
15 years.
never-ending process.
So wait, I think you know what? Now that you're saying this, I think I've seen. I've never played the Marvel games, but I feel like I've seen commercials, and I've always laughed. They never get the movie stars to voice the video games, right? It's always some like other.
We
Or,
always got like one or two.
oh,
Like
you would get
yeah,
you'd get like Hawkeye in there, but like
yeah,
you wouldn't get Robert Downey Jr.
yeah, dude. We did the Expendables video game, and the only two of that whole like cast
Right?
that like needed the money enough to do the game were Terry Crews and Dolph Lundgren.
That's funny. The Expendable. What was the Expendables video game? What did they? What
It
did
was,
you do? Just
I
old
think,
men kicking ass?
yeah, and I think it was for like the PlayStation Network. It wasn't like I don't think it got released for both systems. I think it was a DLC or it was a downloadable, like maybe a $10 game.
Oh, that's crazy.
But we
So,
usually we for the Marvel games, like we got Chris Hemsworth, we got Chris
oh, you
Evans.
did get him. Okay,
Yeah, we got
maybe I was
Chris
just
Pine for Star
imagining.
Trek. But we
Okay,
didn't get the whole cast. You're right on that.
okay. Like
Like we did Despicable Me and we got Steve Carell, but then like part of my job as the intern was trying to find a voice double for Jason Segel. And dude, you get these actors that would send these tapes in and they'd be doing like a Scottish accent, like trying to make it their own.
that's so funny.
It was
Were,
really bizarre. It
were
didn't
you
sound
involved
anything.
in casting a lot as a director? Like, did you get choices, or they would just send someone to you?
I was an intern at the time when we were doing Despicable Me on that video game.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, Steve Carell I think was the only person from the
You
movie.
didn't get the guy who did the Minion voice to come in?
Maybe we did. I just fuck. We got someone else from the cast, but um, yeah,
That's fun. I always say I do think it's funny that like especially as an actor or anyone in Hollywood, like you're hoping like all like these jobs mean a lot to you. It could change your life, and like at the end of the day, an intern's going through the tapes and deciding who makes it to the next round. Like you held people's lives in your hands, which
dude.
is, as an intern.
Yeah. You're dealing with headshots and you're throwing them in a pile, and it's like, dude, this is someone's life and their career, and you're just tossing it.
Oh yeah, that's another. That's so. Did you work for the same company for the all 9 years?
Yeah.
That's cool. Is that common in video games, or do most people like move around?
Dude, most people move around. Like Lee, I've only had, I think, really in my life, I've had three main jobs.
Wow.
Like when even starting as a kid, like I worked at the same when I was a teenager and in college, I worked at the same hotel for 7 years.
Okay.
And then at the Comedy Store, I've been there for 10 years, and I was at the video game job for 9. So like I
You're a
haven't had
loyal
a lot of,
guy.
yeah.
That's awesome. So, did you did mostly directing? Like that was at the end. You just made the switch to directing, and you just directed voice sessions.
I mostly stuck with coordinating. I kind of
Coordinating.
liked it
Okay.
more. Yeah,
Okay.
like I yeah, I mean their voice directors kind of have to talk more than I wanted to talk.
Really, as a comic, you see, that's funny. A lot of people will be like, "Oh, he's a comic. He wants to talk." You're like, "No, I'm quiet the rest of the day." That's
Yeah.
that's funny. Now, did you get? Because I know, and I'm sure, maybe you have a gripe about this, but I know when you win a video game that there's a credit sequence. Was your name in the credits for these games?
Oh yeah. Oh, it still is.
Do you remember what it was like the first time you saw your name in a credit?
Yeah. Yeah, like dude, every once in a while, I haven't done it for a couple of years, but I will like pull up the Skyrim credits on YouTube. I'll be like, dude, it's 9 minutes and 14 seconds exactly in.
Yep. I did. I got a screenshot from mine. It was America's Funniest Home Videos, and I put it on my Facebook. I was like, "This is the coolest thing that's ever happened to me."
Yeah,
I'm on the credits of something.
and it's always out there.
Yeah, it's always out there. Is there like some sort of IMDb for video games? Do you have
Oh
like
yeah.
Oh yeah?
Oh, they're all on my IMDb page, dude. It's fucking yeah.
That's funny.
Because it's
That
funny, like when I in 2010 when I was working there, video games are still they were especially then though, like they were kind of getting into that. Are they Hollywood? Are they not Hollywood? And SAG and AFTRA actually went on strike like in 2013, or I forget what year it was, but because that exact same purpose, they were like, they saw how much video games made as far as money wise
right.
went. They were like, actors should be getting paid more, but I don't think they knew that how many people worked on a video game compared to a film. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think a lot of people. I don't really know how. Like, I mean, you were working on one specific part, but how big is a
Right.
team for video games?
Right. And you have a Japanese division, you have like a, French Canadian office. Like a lot of these publishers have they have their companies are worldwide. So it's such a big operation that there's very few people that are getting like exorbitantly wealthy from this shit.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's true. Now, what are your thoughts? And I hope this doesn't upset you. I don't think it will. But I know for me, just because I'm terrible at video games. I usually get to a point where I can't beat it, and then it like I just give up. But sometimes, especially the more I lose on a level, the angrier I get, and I just skip the cutscenes.
Yeah.
Is there like some like does that piss you guys off when you guys are making it? Like people aren't even gonna watch this. Like
No.
no, okay, that's
No.
funny.
Did you like what was your favorite game as a kid?
Oh my god, it was tough. See, as a kid, my mom was mean. She didn't. I got a PS1 when a PS2 came out. Like I was way behind. I didn't have an N64. Um, I think my favorite. I played all the Grand Theft Autos. I like that. My favorite game that I've played, and it's like the only one I've played all the way through by myself, was Red Dead Redemption 2. That was pretty great. But that's a kind of interesting because were you recording just the cutscenes, or like with like Red Dead Redemption,
Oh
where
no.
like someone will walk up to you and like, oh, watch where you're walking, kid.
Yeah. That
Like
we got all that. That was like most of it was in-game dialogue. It was and like we have what's called efforts, which are like the like pretend you're getting stabbed, pretend you're getting shot, pretend
oh
like this is
wow,
so short bursts of sounds. We'd always do those at the end of the session because they take more, energy out of the actor. But dude, every line that you hear in those games, that was us.
that's
And
funny. That's
like especially like the RPGs, like we had to record a line for every option that because it's all about choice.
right.
I remember like Fallout New Vegas was, and I'm trying to find this joke on stage right now, but it was the first game where you could like get gay married in the game.
I didn't know that. That's funny.
Yeah, you can like be a man and you can marry another man. And like my job, there's an actor, his name's Zach Levi. He played he was Chuck on that NBC show Chuck.
Okay.
Really nice guy. And my boss is like, Tim's like, all right, so Zach Levi is a pretty hardcore Christian, and he was playing a gay character. And my
Oh,
job was to tell him that his character was gay.
oh, he didn't get a
And
script. Oh, you had to tell him
no,
like, oh
he
no.
got a script, but I had to like tell him, okay, this next line, this next 30 lines, you're marrying another man. And I was a little nervous and sweating when I'm telling him this, and he's like, "Oh, that's fine. Yeah,
Oh
I'll
yeah,
do it.
yeah, yeah. He'll do anything for the paycheck. That's funny.
Yeah."
That's now. Were you involved at all in the cataloging of all that? Because I'm just like to think of organizing all of that media must have just been a nightmare.
No, thank God I didn't have to. I mean, my job kind of ended once I uploaded the session to, do you know Ignite, the software? That's
No,
what we used at the time.
no. I've heard of Pro Tools, but no,
Okay.
I haven't used. I never knew Night.
Yeah,
Is it for video games or is it just audio
we used
recording?
Pro Tools to record, but Ignite was like our server. So when
Oh, okay.
session was over, I'd upload those files, and each line had its own file for the editor to. But yeah, dude, I'm just like you. I couldn't imagine cataloging that shit. And like, dude, I'll tell you, the worst game I worked on that I thought would be a piece of shit, and it actually turned out to be a good game, was Tomb Raider. Because
Really?
what they did with Tomb Raider is they animated it. They animated it before they did the voiceover.
Okay.
So we had to do like ADR when we recorded. So we had to match the voice up with the lips exactly. So
Oh,
instead of
wow.
going through like 100 lines of dialogue an hour, like that kind of pace, we are going through like 12 to 13. Like we were
Oh,
doing
no.
20 takes of the same line. And my job as a coordinator was just to stay awake because, dude, it was so fucking frustrating. And it felt like, you know how you can tell in production how organized something is. You
Right.
think like, oh, they're not organized at all. This game's gonna suck. They weren't organized, but the game, I think it got like at least a 9, like at least an 8.5 or 9 from all the major review sites.
Oh, wow. That's crazy that you had to do all of that. And it sounds like for me, when I was assistant editing, I used to hate GoPros because around when I was doing it, like 2011, around that too, every reality show fell in love with putting GoPros on everything, and there's no time code with it. Every other camera you could sync up with time code. GoPros, like they would just send you a whole bunch of files, and you have to find it, see another camera, and find out exactly where it is. It was the biggest pain in the ass. What was the? That's a good question. And maybe you just said it, but what was like a normal pain in the ass thing for you to figure out?
Oh boy. Oh, that's that's a lot of options on that. Um, a big change that happened between Fallout New Vegas and Skyrim was we went paperless, and that was huge because the first game I worked on, Fallout New Vegas, we had binders of scripts, and all the notes were handwritten, and that was all scanning. So I had to scan each page, and that was just
Oh,
tedious, shitty work.
oh
Once,
no! You couldn't get an
once,
intern for that?
right? Well, we did at that time, but I was still kind of the intern and the employee, so it was my
Oh,
job.
perfect.
Yeah,
You had to hand it off to yourself.
exactly.
And you mentioned earlier uploading it? One of the angriest I got was because there were FTP servers and you had to like upload cuts so people could watch it at night. Um, and I remember I was doing this and I thought I was doing something good, and I was doing like a very detailed title, and everyone put the date in, but they would just put the numbers in like 10, 20, 11, and they would just, it would be a jumble of numbers, and I have like visual OCD, so I like when you put dashes between things or slash, and I didn't realize that would make the file not open. So I had driven almost all the way back to Sherman Oaks, fought the traffic from West LA. It took an hour, and then just as I was about to get home, my boss called me furious. None of the files work. None of the files work. You gotta come back. So I drove back all the way back, and I figured it we figured it out, and I had to re-upload them, and it was just like you never make that mistake again. But it was like there's so many like people. That was one of my complaints about that job. About those jobs is I understand there's a lot of money on the line, but we're making reality TV, and you're making it's cool, but people treat it like you're like you have the nuclear launch codes. Like if someone doesn't have a cut to look at that night, that like the whole world's gonna come crashing down. Was it similar
Dude.
in video games?
Yeah. When I was an intern and we were working on Halo Reach, and like we couldn't just throw away the scripts. We had to like shred them and
Oh
like burn
God.
them because they're like, oh, there might be people going through trash bins trying to, find spoilers for
Oh
like who
God.
the fuck is. But people are big into Halo, so
Yeah. Did any of your friends freak out? Did anyone, when you told me you were working on Halo or Skyrim, like these are big games? It's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool. Like, did anyone like think like, oh my god, Lucas has completely made it. Like Lucas is a Hollywood now.
Yeah, and they couldn't be further from the truth, you know.
That's funny. You're still eating. So like that's how I met Joey. I had my first job at America's Funniest, and I was making fine money for what I was doing. Like I said, but like with LA, it's expensive to live there. I was running out of money. I had applied to be a pizza delivery driver, and I hadn't heard back. I didn't hear back, and I met Joey because I was like applying to part-time job. Like the day I met Joey, I was supposed to have an interview with a political fundraising telemarketing office for like for a part-time job. And it's like you can have like your name and credits. You could be working on these big shows, and like you're barely making it financially.
Yeah.
That's fun. So you what made you stick with, like, did you, it sounded like you enjoyed working on these things to do it for 9 years.
Yeah, I like the kind of prestige of it because even though I wasn't making a ton of money, I was making like twice as much money bartending at the Comedy Store.
Oh
But
wow.
the responsibilities of video games, like I had a real job and it's like a career and it looks good on a resume. And I had actual like duties and I was an important piece. Like if we don't do our job, like if I didn't if I didn't upload and the editor wouldn't have anything to like everything's
Yeah.
behind schedule and we were a well-run operation where like if we fuck up, that game doesn't come out on that release date that they've already announced, and nerds are unhappy if that game's not released.
God help us if nerds are unhappy. Did you? Because I hear sometimes, and it happened in TV, like really close to airing, we'd be making changes or fixes. Did you ever have like the release date is tomorrow, and we still have to record this thing, or any close calls?
Not that close because we usually got our stuff done, you know, with a couple months before. But dude, I really pity the people that worked for like, you know, Microsoft or Bethesda because they would put in, dude, like their job, you know, like the publishers, the actual video game producers who didn't worked on the whole thing, not just the voiceover. That dude, like that was their life.
Right.
Some very few of them had families. Most of them were single, working 20-hour days, and they would work. They call it crunch time, where dude, they're working 20-hour days for like 6 months, sometimes 18 months, if that's, you know, what the schedule tells you. And then they get like a month or two off. But they'd have to work so hard just to like burnout is such a real thing.
Yeah. Oh my god. I never worked a 20-hour day. But I know like you can't wait. Sometimes you can't go home until it's done, and they need a certain thing by this date. And I remember thinking that. I only edited for about 3 years. I never made it to full editor, but I remember looking at around, and you said the hours. The hours in post production were, when you made it to day shift, it was 10 to 7 supposedly, but you always had to come in on the weekends or earlier, stay late. And then there was night shift, 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. But I looked at these people and I'm like, to get here for 10 a.m., I have to leave at the latest 8:30 because I'm coming from the valley. I leave at 7. I don't get home until 8 or 8:15. How do people who have like a family and kids do this? And I think there's probably, you're right. I think there's a lot of people who just put everything into their career, and like they just like that's all they have, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. There's a lot of great like stuff that's been made, and they've done great work, but it's definitely a choice. I think it's
Yeah.
it's a hard choice to make.
And they're not getting paid enough. And dude, I keep in touch with a lot of the producers that I worked with closely. Like it, you know, a couple of them still work at Bethesda, and Microsoft bought Bethesda a couple of years ago.
Okay.
And so I guess, you know, they're Microsoft employees now, but and they've worked their way up and they're working less hours now, but dude, they're still working crazy hours. They went from like 20 to 15, or you know what I mean?
Do you know by any chance like what a budget for a video game would be? Because I know every time they raise prices, people are like, I can't believe a game's $70. But when you think about it, when there's that many people working on it and all the time that goes into it, maybe it really does need to cost that much. Do you know what a game like Skyrim might have cost to make?
Uh, Not exactly, but I can just tell. I loved working on the Marvel games because they had higher budgets, it felt, and they didn't give a shit
Okay,
about the quality.
that's
Like they
funny.
really just wanted the celebrity. They just wanted, once we got Chris Hemsworth or whoever, as long as we got that, they didn't care how good Chris Hemsworth recorded the line. They just want his voice.
Right.
On a game like Skyrim or World of Warcraft or something like that, the quality really does matter that much more, and they're working with a lesser budget.
That's wild. So I just Googled it, and
Yeah,
were there multiple? Because I'm seeing Elder Scrolls 5, or was how many Skyrims were there?
there's only the one, so yeah, it'd be five. They've
Okay,
kept remaking it. Like 10 years later, they're still making that same game. And there is an Elder Scrolls 6 coming out, but
okay.
it's just like, Grand Theft. It's like the new Grand Theft Auto, dude. They make one every like decade.
So this is old because I'm on Reddit, but it says it's something. It said the Elder Scrolls 5 was made for $85 million, and as of 2015, as of 2015 when this came out, the total revenue was $1.4 billion. So I mean they make their money back, but that's crazy. It said that in the first 48 hours, they sold 3.5 million copies.
Yeah.
How does it make you feel like? Because I mean, even with the podcast I did with Joey and the TV shows I worked on, you're working in an office. Like it doesn't. It just feels like a regular job. But then like you hear like, oh, I played, like people played this in China. People played this. Like what does it feel? How does it feel to know that like millions and millions of people not only like played or heard the stuff you worked on, but like loved it? Like it's a very important part of their life. Does that
Yeah.
make you feel good?
No, it feels awesome. And it's always like, I remember Skyrim would always be, well, both Fallout and Skyrim were like the number one game for a week. And then Call of
Okay.
Duty would always come out at the same fucking time
Goddamn
and take
Call of
that number
Duty.
one. Yeah, they'd always take the number one spot. So even though Skyrim made what you said it made, I think it was only the top selling game for like that 1 week before Call of Duty came out and took its place.
Motherfucker, I hate Call of Duty now. We're Team Skyrim all the way.
Damn right.
So the last thing I want to talk to you about is something that I think a lot of people deal with. Is how did you make the choice to stop working in video games?
Stand up, man. It's still, there's something about like doing it yourself and I don't know, like video games are great, but there's a lot of people in it and anybody could take my place. I
Right.
wasn't that much of a key cog in the system. Like my job, anyone could do it. And
Well, what I'll say is I don't think anyone could do it. I think honestly, like we were talking about at the beginning, that's why they put you through some shit to see if you can handle the pressure, because a lot of people couldn't and wouldn't. But I think, and I don't know if I hate when people call it like I don't think I'm an artist. I think I'm a creative person. Um, but I think like I wonder if that's like as a creative person, it drew you to that career a little bit, but you would much rather be the one creating and in charge, and like just be the one to really handle it all. Do you, did it take you a while to finally quit? Was it hard when you did it, or like what was that process like?
no, I mean, because it's contract work, like I could always go back to it. And to this day, if I wanted to, like it's an option.
Right. That's exactly what happened with me. I finished the last show and I just didn't go back. I actually remember it was fine because I made the choice to go with Joey. But the last job I worked on was not fuck it, it doesn't matter. It was Cesar Millan's. It wasn't his like big show. Like it was called Caesar 911. It was like a show after his big show, and I think they're still doing it. And I was the lead assistant editor, so I was in charge of like one other person, and I had made the decision to go full time with Joey, and I wasn't gonna go back. And I got a call one day. I remember I was sitting in the parking lot after recording with Joey. I was stoned out of my mind on edibles. Like I was like, I don't remember where I was. I think maybe I was like at the office or something. I got a call about something that happened on the show. Like they were looking for something. And I remember telling them about it. And I don't even know if I made sense or like if I said the right thing. And I just knew I didn't get called back for that show. So in my mind, I was like, I had wanted to like, be like, oh, I can't come back. But I think being stoned out of my mind threw that out the window, which is funny. But you've been doing stand up for how long now?
At that time, fuck it, I think it'd been about 7 or 8 years. So like I was getting to the point where I wasn't eating shit regularly.
Right. Okay.
So I was past that point. And by then, like, dude, I just saved my money. I was kind of too busy working to like blow it too hard. Yeah. So like I was doing good and I didn't have to work for a year or two if I didn't want to. And it just became an option of like, I don't have to do this. I can bartend 2 nights a week at the Comedy Store and pay my bills and save what I have and invest what I have. And like also for the first time I got to work with like a comedian, like Adam Ray did. He did Tomb Raider and then he did Aliens. Remember the movie Aliens?
Right.
In the 80s. We did the remake and Adam was in that too. So I'm like, well, I kind of want to be on the other side like Adam is.
Yeah, I want to be the hell yeah, that's awesome. So I'm so happy for you. I know it's a cool start, but I know there's a lot bigger and better things for you. And I know you're a part of Steve and Azizi's podcast, right? You're a co-host on that. What's that?
Third wheel.
Third wheel. Hey, and you're much more than third wheel. And I know you do a lot of the videos for them. Where can people listen to that? What's the name of that podcast?
That's What's the Odds.
What's the Odds?
You can find me just at Lucas Hirl on all the social medias.
Right. For everyone listening, it's LUCASHIRL. You can find him. I saw today you posted you're at the Comedy Store tonight, so
yes.
This is coming out on Monday. So you killed it at the Comedy Store on Friday. I know that, but you can see Lucas all around LA. And what's your Instagram?
Just at Lucas Hirl. And if you ever want to come to a show, just hit me up, DM me, I'll get you in. The LA comedy scene right now is Lee. You're not missing a ton.
Oh no, well, trust me, I wasn't getting on at the OR. Actually, you know what? That's how I want to end it. How long after you quit comedy did you get passed at the store?
Like a year.
That's badass, dude. I know we talked about getting your first job. Like, what did it feel like to like a year in? Like, how was it to get passed at the store, man? That's pretty awesome.
Dude, that was bigger than anything. Bigger than the first directing job. Getting past the store, dude, I cried when I got that phone call.
Really? What made you cry? Was it just happiness? What was it?
It was happy. Yeah, completely. Like, because I'd worked at the store. I'd worked there for 7 years. Adam called me exactly like 11:20 in the morning. It was Tuesday morning. We'd showcased on Monday night, and it was like a 3-hour showcase, and I went up last.
Oh no!
And so, dude, that crowd was tired. And dude, I just picked a good time to have the set of my life, because I'll listen to that set to this day and I'll be like, dude, this is so much better than any other. At that time, it's 2017. I was still pretty inconsistent, but I just picked a good time to have a good set.
That's awesome. And then, how long was the set?
It was fucking 5 minutes.
5-minute set. And it's funny for those of you listening, like when you hear headliner, they go up last because like they're the biggest on the show. But for 3 hours, people doing 5 minutes. What is that?
Yeah.
A
Oh, it's
hundred?
hell.
That's like 60 people.
Yeah.
So you were comic number 60. The was the audience like it was a real audience that night?
Yeah. Yeah. It was
Uh,
full. It was full. Hirl Skakel was hosting, and he gave me a great intro. But dude, you could tell that crowd was like tired, and it also had the tension in the room was that of a showcase. People knew that it was a
oh,
showcase.
the
That
audience knew that?
yeah.
Oh
Oh,
wow! Oh,
oh
that's a
yeah.
lot
The
of
host told them.
pressure.
Oh, it was insane.
That's so funny. Well, I'm so happy for you, dude. It was one of the last things we got to do in L.A. or not even in LA, but before like stuff shut down, going to Phoenix, and that was a great weekend with you and Steve. You're a great guy, and I just appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Lee. Thanks for having me.
You can follow Lucas on Instagram at Lucas Earl, LucasHirl. You can listen to Lucas on the What Are the Odds podcast with Steve Renazizi and Brenton Biddlecombe. And you can see Lucas all over Los Angeles. Like I said, he's a regular at the Comedy Store. And you know what? We all need more nice people like Lucas in the world. So please give him a follow, send him a message, buy him a candy bar. He's really healthy. He might not want candy. Buy him some kale. He lives in Los Angeles now. I don't think he eats kale. But thank you very much to Lucas for coming on the podcast. I want to thank you for watching and listening. I really appreciate the support. We are very quickly coming up on the 1 year podiversary of the What Was I Thinking podcast. It's been quite a year. I'm not breathing like I'm running a race as I'm recording every day now. We got the podcast studio, the Jew's Nest, as I sometimes call it. Usually not, because it makes my mom angry. It really does. But I wanted to thank you so much for your continued support. I love that you guys are sharing it with people and that you like it. And you know what? I look forward to doing it every week. So it really means a lot that you listen and watch and support. I am releasing new clips every week. I do. Just very quickly, I do a reaction video every Thursday. And last week, I reacted to a clip of Brody Stevens, the late great Brody Stevens, and the amazing turn of events that now every August 18th is Brody Stevens Day in Los Angeles. Thanks to Tommy Godlove and a bunch of other great people. Darren Carter, Sam Tripoli, Dean Del Rey are all involved. Mauricio Alvarado of Rockin' Pins. They're doing great things in LA, and I miss them and Brody very much. So go check that out on my YouTube page. Okay, thank you so much for watching and listening. I want to thank our sponsors for this week, Manscaped. If you go to manscaped.com and use code Syatt, SYATT, that is what you mean to me. It's Syatt. It's Syatt. You get 20% off plus free shipping at manscaped.com. And after your balls are looking and smelling delicious, that's right, delicious from Manscaped, I want you to go and upgrade your underwear game. Go to sheathunderwear.com. You're supporting me. You're supporting an American company and a veteran-owned company. Robert Patton, the owner, is a U.S. Army soldier who had this idea in his second tour in Iraq. And if his balls were okay in Iraq, your balls are going to be okay at the office. Even better, it's a 2-pouch compartment. It's soft. It's silky. Whoever is touching your balls is going to love it, and you're going to love it for the support, the feel, and the look. Go to sheathunderwear.com. That's right, sheathunderwear.com, and use promo code Syatt. You just heard the song SYATT. That is what you mean to who? To me. Sheathunderwear.com. 20% off of your first order using code Syatt. And don't forget, every single order of Sheath Underwear comes with the 100% money back Sheath Underwear guarantee. That's right, I said those words in the wrong order, but it's 100% money back guarantee with Sheath Underwear when you use code Syatt. Thank you to Manscaped and to Sheath Underwear. Thank you for watching and listening, and I will be back next week with a new What Was I Thinking podcast. Love you and stay safe out there.